Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you're having a fantastic Thursday. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing I want to talk about today is both our douchebag of the day and a douchebag of the year nominee. And that person is Australian health blogger Belle Gibson. And you might remember her name, we talked about her a while ago, but the situation is far more infuriating now. Now, for those who don't know, Belle Gibson is someone who became famous in Australia because she claimed to have beaten terminal brain cancer using natural remedies and nutrition. This then health success inspired her to launch a successful app and cookbook. And because of her life story, some of the sales from here were going to go to charitable causes. But unsurprisingly to myself and my fellow cynics, it all was a lie. So in 2015, some media outlets were saying there were inconsistencies in her story, that part of what she was talking about, maybe she was lying. And finally, after enough media scrutiny, Belle admitted that her cancer was not real in an interview with Australian Women's Weekly. It was also later revealed she lied about her age and details of her personal life and history. And just so you understand the extent of her lies, let's go through this. She originally claimed that she was diagnosed with brain cancer but had been stable for 2 years. Later, she told media outlets that the cancer had reached her liver and kidneys. She posted on her book and app's Facebook page that her cancer had spread to her blood, her spleen, her uterus. She also claimed that she had undergone multiple heart surgeries and even momentarily died on the operating table. Also, there was that time she claimed she had a stroke. Oh, and then there was also that $300,000 she said she gave to charity that she didn't. And the donation lies are even worse than they sound. There's this family out there, the Schwarz family. They have a son with terminal brain cancer. Gibson promised and advertised that she was going to take the sales from her app and donate the proceeds to that family to help them, and she never did. She not only lied about having brain cancer and curing her own disease, she used a boy with terminal cancer to make money for herself. To make it even more evil, the family also said that Belle had been giving them false hope, saying that the boy's tumor was just like the one she had, obviously making them feel like, well, if she could cure her own brain cancer, then there's hope for our little boy. This is the kind of person that makes me wish that I believed in an afterlife and that there would be some sort of just punishment for what this woman did. Now, luckily, the reason that we're talking about this story today is that there is an update, there is a punishment. In 2016, Consumer Affairs Victoria, which is an Australian government agency that protects consumers, they announced that they would be taking legal action against Gibson for, quote, false claims by Miss Gibson and her company concerning her diagnosis with terminal brain cancer, her rejection of conventional cancer treatments in favor of natural remedies, and the donation of proceeds to various charities. And then the federal court found her guilty, first in April ordering her to pay $30,000 in prosecution costs, and now we have learned she has also been ordered to pay a penalty of $410,000 Australian dollars. And following this decision, Justice Mortimer said that if Gibson is able to pay this money, to pay the fine, it would be good to see the money donated to organizations and people who had been falsely promised donations, saying in that way some good might still come for the vulnerable people and the organizations supporting them, which were indirectly drawn into this unconscionable sequence of events. And so that's where we are today. It is a big fine. It is nowhere near the punishment I think that she should receive. Personally, I'm of the belief that someone that would do something this horrible is not worthy to breathe our air, because in addition to the horrible lies which she obviously told to be able to make money, maybe gain attention and fame, by doing this, she wasn't just giving people false hope, she may have effectively been making people stray away from modern medicine and made them think that they could cure their cancer with nutrition and natural remedies. In my opinion, the only place this person belongs is in a fire. But hey, that's just my cheery takeaway from this story. I'd of course love to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here? Is she somehow not the evil monster in this situation? Is everything a mental disorder that we get to just go, oh, well, it's not really that person's fault? And yes, I'm aware that I'm being much more dismissive of the counterpoint than normal, but just, oh, this woman gets under my skin. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome, brought to you by the brand new DeFranco shirt. A shirt that says, well, my name 8 times. I've seen more and more comments of it's great they have the sports shirt, the let's make mistakes together shirt, but what about something that definitively says we watch your show? So boom, there you have it. First quickie run of this, available in the links down below. If you want one, snag one while you can. And the first bit of awesome is I gotta just give some love to Mr. John Kozar. John hosts the Streamies on Tuesday. He was by far my favorite host of the Streamies ever. And multiple times throughout the night, as a joke, he took shots at YouTubers. And some of the jokes were well received and people actually laughed, and then other times people were just quiet. People seemingly afraid or too serious to be able to laugh at jokes made at their own expense or of their friends. So I wanted to share these videos with a bunch of people I think would appreciate them and just give some love to John Kozar because he's a bam. Then in a little self-promotion awesome, we released the second episode of the DeFranco Book Club. In today's video, we talk Ready Player One. We announced the book for next month. So if you read the book or you just want to be a part of it next month, go to that video. Then we got a brand new episode of Hot Ones with Wanda Sykes. Then we got a video that answers that lifelong question, can you make potato chips with a laser? I believe it was Gandhi who first asked that question, and now we have the answer. Then in the single most important bit of awesome today is that we got a trailer for Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, sadly, it won't be coming out this year, but oh my god, just get excited. Also, if you never played Red Dead Redemption, fix that now. What are you doing with your life? That game messed with my soul. I know that might not sound like a selling point, but it is. And if you want to see the full full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all. Links, as always, are in the description down below. And then let's talk about one of the most requested stories today, and that is the video that has now gone viral of that woman getting kicked off a Southwest flight. So what happened? Was this United bad? Well, the person at the center of this is Anila Delatsai. She's a 46-year-old college professor. She was on a Southwest Airlines flight when she reportedly told the flight crew that she was deathly allergic to dogs and asked that the animals on board be removed. And there were 2 pets on the plane, one regular pet and one emotional support animal. The flight attendant then says, due to airline policy, they can't do that. Then Anila says that she still wants to remain on the flight, but crew members are then concerned because they might have to divert the flight if she has a reaction. And then, according to Bill DeMoss, the man who shot the now viral video, Anila asked for an EpiPen shot after the crew told her they could not remove the animals. DeMoss then saying he heard a flight attendant say they needed her to have a certificate so they could administer an injection and that she'd have to exit the plane first. She then refused, and because Anila had made the airline aware of her allergy and she didn't have the proper medical certificate to stay on board, she was then asked to leave. And so then law enforcement gets called. They're trying to remove her from the plane, and we get the video.
Once again, folks, put your phone away.
I'm sorry, my dad has surgery. What are you doing?
Come on, lady, let's go.
I need to close my pants. What are you doing?
Close your pants and let's go.
You ripped my pants. Please, you will make the complaint. Do it for yourself. I will walk up. Don't touch me.
Let's walk.
Don't walk. Don't touch me. Show them that you're walking. I can't walk.
Walk.
He's got my leg. Just please show them that you're walking.
There we go. Just walk.
Please.
Walk.
I'm a professor. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Jeez, lady, get off the plane. Make the complaint later.
And following this coming out, Southwest Airlines released a statement saying, our policy states that a customer without a medical certificate may be denied boarding if they report a life-threatening allergic reaction and cannot travel safely with an animal on board. Our flight crew made repeated attempts to explain the situation to the customer. However, she refused to deplane and law enforcement became involved. But they also added an apology, saying, we are disheartened by the way the situation unfolded and the customer's removal by local law enforcement officers. We publicly offer our apologies to this customer for her experience, and we will be contacting her directly to address her concerns. And as far as what happened to the woman after she was kicked off the plane, well, she was arrested and charged. We're looking at several charges. We have disorderly conduct, failure to obey a reasonable and lawful order, disturbing the peace, obstructing and hindering a police officer, and resisting arrest. And so with this story, the video that is along with it, I mean, what is your takeaway here? Do you think that she should have been kicked off the flight, yes or no? If yes, do you believe that law enforcement was too aggressive? And I'd love to know your opinion. Personally, where I land on this is I feel like I end up being far more sympathetic to the airline here. From my point of view, they're put in a very weird situation. I mean, the woman here is making very large requests. She's making very large claims without any paperwork or proof. And all they see as a business is, wow, this is a huge liability. Like, we have 2 options here. One, we either administer an EpiPen shot even though we don't know if everything is on the up and up. Or 2, we let this woman who says that she might die if she's on this plane stay on this plane. Now, as far as how she was handled by police, I'd love to know what you think there. But because of how this situation started, I do think it is important to look at those as kind of 2 separate things here. But yeah, let me know. I'm fascinated to know what you think. And then let's talk about the incredibly sexy topic of tax reform. If you're in public, try and keep it calm down there. Deductions and dirty, dirty tax rates. Obviously, I'm joking. It's not a sexy topic, but it is incredibly important, and these would be massive changes. So what am I talking about? Well, the Republicans revealed their Unified Framework, which is their guide for the new simplified tax code. The last tax reform occurred in 1986. It is extremely complex. And so let's talk about some of these specific changes, because right now you just have a lot of people saying like, this is the worst thing ever, this is the best thing ever. Well, what does it do? Well, let's start with individual taxes. This is going to affect the largest group of people. This reform calls for reduced individual income tax rates. Currently for individual rates, there are 7 tiers, and here they are proposing just 3. A 12%, a 25%, and a 35%. But additionally, the framework also allows for an optional 4th tier to be added above 35%. So other than simplification, what does this mean on the high and low end? Well, on the low end, the current bottom tier is 10%, so this is technically a raise in taxes on the lowest. You're taking that 10% tax rate, you're bumping it up to 12%, but that's not the end of the story, and we're going to touch on this again. And on the high end, the current highest tier is 39.6%, so we're actually seeing a reduction here unless that 4th tier is added. The framework also calls for an increased standard deduction. Standard deduction is a specific amount of income that is not taxed. This is an alternate to itemizing deductions, and I'm losing you.
Clear.
Nothing gets someone's eyes to glaze over like itemized deduction. Main point is it's an amount of money that is not taxed for an individual or a married couple. What they're calling for is doubling the current number, so that would make $12,000 a year for an individual and $24,000 for a married couple. So while beneficial to everyone, this could also technically create a 0% tax bracket for an individual or a couple that makes less than those amounts. And that is a big deal because essentially by doubling the deductibles, they're doubling the 0% tax bracket that's not being included here. They also called for an increase to the child tax credit. Right now you get a $1,000 credit for every kid you have under 17. There's no specific amount or multiplier mentioned, it just says substantial. It also proposes opening up the eligibility requirements so more people can qualify. Then we see the proposal of getting rid of some deductions. One of their goals here is to simplify taxes, and that means cutting most itemized deductions. So that includes things like state and local tax deduction, also eliminating personal exemptions that could be worth $4,050 per person. But it does call for keeping tax incentives for home ownership, retirement savings, charitable giving, higher education. They also call for the removal of the alternative minimum tax, the estate tax, which you might have heard of as the death tax. Also, to clear up any of the confusion around death tax, this is something that really only affects the very wealthy. When someone dies and everything they have is transferred to their heir, there is a tax if the cash, the real estate, the everything exceeds $5.49 million. And that's per person. If it's grandma and grandpa's stuff, you double that. And so because of that high dollar amount, estimates say this doesn't affect 99.8% of the estates in America. And then let's talk about the proposed changes for business taxes. They have called for a new business tax rate of 20%, which is a huge drop from the current 35%. It's even below the industrialized world's average of 22.5%. Now here's what I'll say. As a business owner, I am personally excited. The idea of being able to pay 15% less in taxes, I can do so much with that money. More people, more gear, more opportunity, but of course you're going to have people worried that not every company is going to do that. That companies will just hold on to that money or just pay their top executives even bigger bonuses. And there are people scared because estimates from the Tax Foundation and the Tax Policy Center say that the change could cost the United States almost $2 trillion over the next decade. But a thing to keep in mind is that number is just looking at the drop in taxes paid. There's really no way for them to estimate the economic stimulation that we might see, right? And then we just get into theories of what will happen with the economy. And this will just get confirmed more and more as I explain the other proposed changes, but it appears the hope here is to treat businesses better. Tax them less, it makes America more competitive, they can keep their businesses here. By keeping their businesses here or doing more business in the States, you get more workers. When you have more people working and they have more deductions and they are taxed lighter, they have more money to spend for those businesses. And the hope would be that you have an economic boom. Or what detractors of this proposal believe, which is that this would be an implosion. Companies are just going to hold on to that money and it will not trickle down to the little guy. The proposal also calls for a change with pass-throughs. It's a business thing. When companies pass their profits through to partners and shareholders, they have to claim that on their individual taxes. Right now, that money goes through a top-tier rate of 39.6%, but it's being proposed to change that top-tier rate to 25%. This also calls for a change on how U.S. multinationals are taxed. The plan proposes taking away the current 35% tax on all profits that are made elsewhere and then brought into the United States. The theory behind this cut is that companies just avoid bringing back profits to the United States because of that 35% tax. So if we just eliminate it, in theory, that would bring more money back to the United States economy. And honestly, people shouldn't be surprised by this proposal because most of this is what Trump said he was going to do on the campaign trail. Granted, there are minor differences from when he was on the campaign trail. He originally said 12%, 25%, 33%. We see a small change there. He talks about tax cuts for everyone, but of course you do have that 10% going to 12%. Once again, the argument there is that after you do the math with the double deductible, that will still ultimately be a tax cut because they're doubling the 0%. You can also kind of argue that on the campaign trail he might be a little bit misleading about the death tax. He says it's affecting the American worker, which, I mean, technically we're talking about American workers in the United States, but still we're talking about 0.02%. But those people still are working Americans, so technically he is right. Now, one of the things the president did mention on the campaign trail, but we're not seeing it in this framework, so it might be in the final. It's not in this current framework. He said this.
As part of this reform, we will eliminate the carried interest deduction, well-known deduction, and other special interest loopholes that have been so good for Wall Street investors and for people like me, but unfair to American workers.
This isn't in there right now, but Trump's White House economic advisor Gary Cohn said that they are still committed to closing the loophole. But also maybe not, because the Treasury Secretary just last month said they might keep it for firms that create jobs and close it for hedge fund managers. So a loophole for some, not a loophole for all. And where I'll leave you with that story is, did any of that make sense? Also, because this is the Philip DeFranco Show, I'd love to know your thoughts on this story, the first one, anything in between in those comments down below. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I try and do on this channel, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you happen to miss and want to catch up on yesterday's Philip DeFranco Show, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you want to check out the brand new DeFranco Book Club, watch it, then take part in it, click or tap right there. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.